First time being on a podcast. I've done
Woohoo!
Facebook Lives before, but not
So
podcasting.
the podcast is not live yet. I'm gonna
Yes.
do it after. Like right now, you're live on Facebook, my Facebook group, my YouTube, and IGTV. Not well, it will be on IGTV. So welcome,
Fantastic.
Robin, to the real story behind her business, which is episode number 3. And I want to remind everybody why I created that show is to really allow female entrepreneurs to open up about their personal stories and how it shaped their business. Because the real thing is that it's really hard to know how much do we have to share about who we are, about our life on social media, because, it's kind of a weird thing. But the goal of sharing stories is not really to share stories and brag or showing misery or anything. It's really to help you connect with your ideal client. And as humans, just consider that if you're in a special event, you meet someone you've never met before, you're gonna probably start the conversation like, where do you live, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point in the discussion, you're gonna discover that that person is also a coffee lover, right?
Right.
A coffee lover. Well, what about we go for coffee tomorrow morning? And then you start a relationship. This is exactly the same on social media. So it's how much of your story has built your business, because when you talk to female entrepreneur, you always figure at some point that there is an event that happened in your life. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be, but then it helped her to figure out how to figure out a situation and make it a business and monetize the message and help other women or other men or whoever you help in your business to actually go through the same hardship, but in a way that feels good because you've been through it. And you know now how to teach people or help people to do the transformation they need the most right now in their life, right? So Robin, welcome to the show. I always say it's a show that's gonna make you laugh, cry, and generate wealth. And when I say wealth, it could be, physical wealth or emotional wealth, but also financial wealth. Because when you feel good about sharing your story, chances are that you're going to make more sales. And actually, our last guest last week said that each time she has a sales conversation and she kind of doesn't share a personal element of her story, she doesn't sell, because it doesn't bring the dimension of the sale. Like, you hear a lot of people saying, selling is like an exchange of energy, but I really believe that. And I myself have to practice a lot. So Robin, welcome to the show. Tell us
thank you.
Where you are coming from here. Tell us more about where are we connecting from?
Sure. So I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia, in the United States, about 2.5 hours from Washington, D.C. and home of the University of Virginia. Some people may know about that because we won the NCAA basketball tournament a couple of years ago.
Okay, awesome. So bring us back. So before we go deep in the conversation, tell me more about who is your client right now. Who are you trying to attract to your business? Who are you helping?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kind of have two arms. We talked about this, right? I started my entrepreneurial experience partnered with Rodan & Fields, which is a skincare company in San Francisco. And since then, I have also added in and diversified to help small businesses and entrepreneurs really get clear on where they want to go and cut through the chaos and get going and have that support that they need to really come up with action plans. So my ideal clients, depending on which business we're talking about, but they all tend to they've identified what their desires are, and they have an idea of how they're going to get there. And so I often help them to come up with some creative solutions, offer different and creative connections that they might not have made previously, whether that's through some different thoughts, and how to look at things, or even making some connections between people, products, and services that will really benefit them.
I love that you say that it all starts with desires, right?
Yes.
Because it's not like obvious. I remember before I was in the business world, I thought business was about selling stuff, but it all started with a desire. And I think that's exactly why we are today. Because, bring us back to your desire when you, at the very, very beginning of your entrepreneurial story. What was your most biggest desire?
Oh my goodness. That's such a great, I just love the way that you captured and put it into one little pretty picture that I could try and begin and latch onto. So
You're
my,
sweet.
my desire at the point where I learned about, and I started with Rodan and Fields, and again, like I said, segued into this, going out into my own, and diversifying because I realized I can help other people. So my desire came from a couple of different things. I have always enjoyed people and connecting with people and knowing people. I have enjoyed offering solutions and being able to be an independent entrepreneurial kind of person. I didn't know that initially. Like I thought, my background is in nonprofit management and education, and that is all about solving problems and learning how to empower yourself and speak up for yourself and identify tools. And I never thought about that as being entrepreneurial, but it turned out that it was. And so there was one pivotal moment that made me take that leap into entrepreneurship for myself. And it was when that idea that job security was actually secure. Unfortunately, our income was completely wiped out through job loss during the 2008 recession. And I recognized that, you can check the boxes for education, for, really putting your head down and doing a good job, for getting performance reviews and then bonuses. And then they can say, thanks, we don't need you anymore because we need to balance our budget. And that was the final impetus for me. I was like, oh my, I need to find a way that I can find security, financial security, because I never wanted our family to ever be in that position again. And I know, I understand there's always a little bit of risk involved with everything, but I was really ready to get out and do something for myself that I had control over.
Oh my God. I so resonate with your story because kind of mine too. Like I've been, laid off twice. And that feeling as a mom, can you bring us back there? Like, because it's one thing to say, we lost our jobs and then so we had to figure it. But how did it feel at the time? So that you go deep enough that you said, like, I need to find my own solutions now.
Yeah, so it was devastating, absolutely devastating. I was fortunate. My husband and I had sort of it was a spoken and unwritten contract when our kids were born. I was able to stay home with them. So I was working part-time jobs and had started thinking I would become a teacher. And my husband was the primary breadwinner, and he was told, so my birthday's in December, and he was told on my birthday, my 40th, that he no longer had a job after, really prior to that, he'd been given such great reviews, recognition. And it was right before Christmas, and our kids were 6 and 9 at the time. And it was really frightening. It was horrible. We didn't know. Thankfully, we had been fiscally responsible prior to that and had been in a position where we could have great, reserves. But it was still really frightening.
Yeah. So from that stage, what was the biggest struggle at the time to make that business kind of very vague project of yours happen? What was the major struggle for you?
The major struggle for me was really trying to identify. I had all these ideas, I had these thoughts, and as I was talking with my husband, like I said, had considered being a teacher and was in the process of getting my teaching certificate. And as I was going down that path, so it was kind of I want to say it was a 4 or 5 year process. A lot of people, it sounds like it's this snap, kind of decision. It was a long decision, and what I realized is teaching, God bless teachers. It's not going to be my forte. And my husband and I were talking, well, what are your options? What can we do? And he said, well, you could be a coach. And I thought, well, I could, but I don't really have, at the time I didn't credit what my previous career the skills and the expertise that it offered to me. So I was like, I don't have business experience. And so when I learned about Rodan and Fields, I thought, wow, this is a perfect opportunity for me to gain business experience with a company that provides support and actual products to offer people. And the personal development and the community that came with it was incredibly supportive.
I love that you were open enough that you decided to go with an opportunity that was providing professional development, because you probably use that as a trampoline and like a bridge
Yes.
to your other career right now that is helping people who wants to build a business to make it happen for them, right?
Yes, absolutely. It was a huge learning ground. It was great research development, and along the way, income as well. So it was a great way to develop all the resources that I need to be able to help other people and help them to launch their businesses, get crystal clear on what their vision is and what they think they bring to the table to bring their products and services to reality.
So you said that it was the work over 5 years. So tell me, like, what was the ups and downs? Like, what was the obstacle you had to go one after the other to get to a point that you built a company with, Rodan and Fields, and now you have your own consulting company to help entrepreneurs. Like,
yes.
So what was the journey over those 5 years? Like, externally, what did you have to kind of struggle with?
Yeah. So that's great. And so actually it's kind of two different time periods. So the 5-year period that I was speaking of was when I was kind of thinking that I still wanted to be in the job security. And then Rodan and Fields, I've been with them for 8 years. So it's actually been a much longer time period than just 5. But in both experiences, right, there's that excitement and passion that I had for what I thought was going to be the answer to what I was looking for, which was financial security, flexibility, and the ability to help people and offer solutions. And so some of the challenges around that, of course, are once you get over that initial excitement, you kind of like, oh, now what I don't know what to do with all the stuff that I'm learning and that I'm experiencing. And for me, as a person who really, I never wanted to offend people, or I didn't want to. I was always very careful about how I thought that I could express or direct, people to different options. And so I think for me, that doubt that what I was offering was, beneficial to them, and the way I was delivering it was something that they could gain from. That was probably one of my biggest hurdles, kind of owning my own voice, right? Because in the past, all my opportunities where I was really passionate and excited, I was taking somebody else's mission and vision and implementing it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, but I'm doing this, like, this is my vision. This is my voice. This is so exciting. And oh, I don't know how to say that.
Yeah. So what make, can you bring me to that moment? Was it like when you really felt that you were on a mission for your own voice, your own message, your own kind of monetization, like when you realized that you could monetize your own message? Like, what was it, like at a specific time or a place, or did it happen like in the morning when you woke up? Like, what was the trigger? What was like?
That's a great question. I think there were a couple of things that came in. First of all, I don't think it's a one-time event, at least not for me. And in my experience with talking with other people, it's never a one-time event. There's usually this cycle, this iteration, this reiteration as you start to speak your vision. People respond, and then you realize, oh, well, that's not exactly what I was thinking. Let me express it this. You just learn and you understand more about what your confidence is, what your skills are, what you're really bringing to the table. And so, like, I'd love to say I was brushing my teeth one morning. I was like, bingo. I know what I'm all, what's going to happen, and I'm going to shout it from the mountaintop. But that's just not how, that's just, at least not my life.
Mine either.
So, yeah. So it's a constant iteration. And I have to say, I think one of the most profound moments, and we both were in a group with our shared coach, Eleanor Beaton, and one of the things that she really helped me to I want to say accept, because I was unwilling to accept this for so long,
Yeah.
that I could actually speak through my emotions. And I don't necessarily only mean saying what I was feeling, but also those moments when I was like awash with like, oh my gosh, complete like, I don't know, embarrassment because I said something that wasn't exactly what I was trying to say, or somebody responded in a way that completely floored me and surprised me. That I just needed to own those feelings, give myself a moment to collect them, and even ways to express like, wow, that was really shocking to me. So I just need a minute to collect my thoughts so I can respond appropriately. Like, that's okay. And for some reason, through my life, I had, and through my experiences, had, and probably because in my work, the professional, career I had working for other people, it mattered that I fit into the box. And so I always had tempered down kind of my responses to things. And so it was, I think, having that, like, just being okay with the fact that not everybody's going to like what I was saying, not everybody's going to like jump up and down and completely agree with what I was saying, and that I was going to be okay. That
Love it.
anxiety, that those feelings, just, they were not defining me. They were just part of who I am.
I love this. Okay. I would love you to remember of an example. I want an example of this because I can just imagine. I know exactly what you mean. Do you remember like an example, maybe with a client or maybe your neighbor or maybe I don't know, like when was the first time you practiced that muscle?
Yes. So, I think the first time I practiced that muscle was actually, without even really recognizing it, was when I said yes to Rodan Fields 8 years ago. And then my mentor said, well, here are the things that you need to do. You need to pick up the phone. Well, I was literally like, because I'd never done anything that was purely my own, kind of just for, I thought about it as just for me, right? I had totally lost sight of the fact that it was actually something I could serve and offer other people. But taking that moment to just like, okay, and somebody answered the phone and I didn't just hang up, right? I took a deep breath and said, hi, how are you? It's great to see you. And I said, we chatted, right? And then at the end I said, I have a reason I'm calling, right? And I talked about the reason I was calling and coming up with those sorts of, just coming up with just, allowing myself to feel that way. So that was initially, and those were small kinds of things. But as I moved into my own, my whole, my mission is to surround myself with girlfriends with a purpose. Like, you're a girlfriend with a purpose, right? You want to you have things you want to accomplish. You have ambitions. You are unapologetic about it. You elevate other people, and it's so exciting. And I think the first time I said that, right, to another person was probably 4 months ago in Toastmasters.
Wow.
And I really articulated what my vision was and what the problem that I saw. And I stood, like, at the time we were meeting so it was longer than 4 months ago because we were actually meeting in person.
Yeah.
And I remember going, oh my gosh, I lived through that.
I love it.
I lived through that.
Yeah. And how did it feel?
It felt so awesome and horrible at the same time.
Yeah. So what was your biggest fear with this?
My biggest fear is always that I will stop myself from expressing what it is that I want for people. What it is that I want for myself. And what I want for myself is, like I said, there's people around me who have purpose, who have ambition, and are really good with talking about it, challenging each other, and having it be really positive, right? It's hope grounded in reality. It's having the conversations grounded in reality. And I think my biggest fear was that somebody would tell me it was a dumb idea, that I was foolish to even say those things, that I was full of myself, that all I cared about was myself.
Wow. Okay. So you did it, you said it, and you were like, what did I say? But afterwards, like, what did it mean to you? What signal did it send to your brain and to you as a woman? Like,
yeah, it's that whole Wonder Woman, like, am I it was great. It signaled that I could do something that still caused me concern, right? I have anxieties, and I've developed coping mechanisms for that. There's a great podcast, if I can say that, that I've listened to, Harvard Business Review. It's The Anxious Achiever, right?
Okay, I don't know that podcast. I have to check it out.
But I've always been able to achieve despite anxiety. And what it said for me, to myself, is that I was able to achieve even with my anxiety. And the response I got was really, positive. There were several, especially the women in the group, were like, "Oh my gosh, we need this. We need you." It was really affirming to hear that.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Because when you told it to me a few minutes ago, I didn't want to stop you, but I had shivers along my spine. So that's your message, and nobody else told me that before. What you said to me. Like, you want a girlfriend, like a kind of a tribe of girlfriends who stand for.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
It's powerful, and this is what you really believe in, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I love this, because you said that you were able to finally express it in a way that even yourself, you were like, "Oh my God, what did I say?" Like last year. After 8 years of being in business. So I love this, because we always want to be perfect right away and accomplish our stuff right away. But we're there for the long term, right? You have to work on yourself more than anything else, right? And giving you the time to go through those different stages of your development. It comes to a point that it's sometimes bigger than you, like it goes out.
Yes, exactly. And I love that you said, it is that recognition that, I know so many times that I compared myself to the end of somebody's journey instead of, because we don't, right? We don't always open up what the actual process is, because it's either too painful to us, it's too messy, we're too uncertain about what we're kind of wrestling with to be able to share it with another person that is, not our best friend or not our coach. So, it's so easy to fool ourselves into thinking, well, if you don't do it in the first 6 months, if you don't do it in the first month, if you don't do it in the first day, forget about 8 years, right? That you're never going to succeed in achieving it because it's just not for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. And so tell me, before we move on, like, what was the impact on your relationships, maybe with your kids or with your clients, to like how you showed up after? Like, you knew you were able to be who you were and feeling okay, like nobody killed you at the end, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting you asked about the kids too, because for my clients, I have more clients than I did prior to my confused kind of state of mind. Not that I wasn't attracting clients, because when you have a good product and you have something to offer, people are interested. They can kind of see past maybe some of the uncertainty that you're holding yourself back with. But certainly by getting out there and talking more about it, first of all, more people hear about it, and second of all, they start to resonate and understand, what it is, the value that you're offering. And with my kids, it's so fun to I have a very supportive family, and my kids, they've grown through the years with me and my business. And so we're able to, it's just fun to see how they've developed a certain resilience, an ability to kind of weather challenges that they're experiencing in a different way. Now, I don't want to paint a fairy tale picture that me and my kids have this amazing, amazing relationship where they always listen to what I have to say, because I mean, they're
I know.
teenagers and a college student.
I know.
But I do think it really expanded what they understand as success, and that it's not just one way or type of being that creates success.
Oh, I love this. Oh my God, that would be a nice quote for your social media. By the way, how do you share that message on social media? Do you find a way to share that type of message on social media? How do you use your message?
Yes, I try to. I try to do my best to share that kind of message pretty much throughout my whole. I mean, if you're going to have a conversation with me in person or in social media, I want to be the same person, because I don't want to surprise somebody to find out that, oh, wow, you don't sound like or look like anything, like you do on social media. I'm just real. I've never been very good at like making it and faking it. So I try and show up the same way I do in person as I do on social media. And I think through consistency and understanding my values and who I can serve is really how I show up.
I love this. I told you about my program, the Audience DNA Lab. We spend the first 2 modules exactly about that, because this is what it takes to go over the sweat of showing up on social media. You really have to know who you are. And some people say, well, I just wanted tactics, like just show me how to do so. I'm like, no, because when the shit hit the fan on social media, if you don't know what you stand for and your values, then you don't know if you have to kick out someone from your Facebook group, or if you can say no to that person. This is not the type of community I want to be like. You have to really be strong on, and clear, not strong, it's not the right word, clear on what you stand for, right?
You do. You have to have those clear boundaries and be able to, the other thing that, and I just, it's interesting. I heard somebody say the other day that self-care is kind of like overrated. And I thought, well, I mean, like if you're only thinking of self-care as kind of the only thing you do, then maybe it's overrated. However, in order to have strong, firm boundaries, you have to really, recognize how you need to take care of yourself. Because if you don't, that whole, what the airline, the flight attendants say in flight, right? To put your oxygen mask on first and then help the other person. I will be the first to say that I used to get so annoyed when I heard that, when people would say you have to invest in your own self-care, and you have to. And it doesn't just mean like, spa treatments. It means getting enough rest. It means taking care of yourself physically and health-wise, nourishing, what you're reading, like be entertained and educated and engaged. What fills your bucket, right?
Yeah, I love that reminder. So based on that, let's say that some of those wonderful people are gonna watch the replay. Like, what is the one, maybe you would say, false belief that you had before that now was a false belief? And then you can advise to people to pay attention to this.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the timing of this question is fantastic, because I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday who said, I would never do that because everybody in that industry does X, and it wasn't positive. You can imagine.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, because the false belief I had is that it was the industry that was at fault rather than the company or the people that were developing either bad practices or creating an unfavorable reputation. So by that I mean, for the longest time I thought job meant security, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It doesn't necessarily mean security. I thought being a business owner meant, 150 hours a week. Well, not necessarily, right? Like, and so it's really identifying. So the false belief I had is that it was the industry rather than the company, and knowing what the criteria were for having a solid business plan and having a solid company culture and outlook.
Yeah. So what should they do? Like, people who were maybe are in your shoes, your past shoes, like what should they do now instead of that previously true thing at the time that is not true anymore to you?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great, yeah. So, really think about when you're looking at a company, whether it's an individual, a coach, or a company that is, one that you're looking for a job, or you're thinking, I want to represent, be part of that company as a representative. You want to make sure that when you look at their different, the website and their social media, it all lines up, first of all, right? Those good business practices. You want to make sure that, they're offering a product or service that is of value to people. You want to talk to people. If they're happy in the company, then most likely, there's a reason for that. It's a healthy climate. It's a healthy company. It's a healthy organization. And, especially if it's something where you're paid with commission, you want to make sure that you're not being slugged with a bunch of inventory requirements in order to, make your commission, that the company takes that burden. And so, what you're offering is something that that doesn't result in undue investments of financially or, time-wise from you. So, so those are the kinds of things I would look for. And I really do think that that's true, whether you're looking for a job or you're looking for something, to do on your own.
Yeah, I like that. So now you also told me that you're a coach for for any entrepreneur. I don't know if it's female only or any.
Well, it turns to be primarily female.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the trigger for you? Like you've been working in the like Rodan & Field, you said, for many years, but then
Yes.
At some point you said, hey, I need to help women, whether they're in that industry or outside, they have their own desire to build a business. What was the trigger there?
The trigger was that I'm in several different networking groups and business groups and community groups, and there are a couple of things that came together for me. One, with Rodan & Fields, I learned how to be a coach as well as, to be a business person, because it comes both ways with being a team leader and a consultant, right? You learn best practices. And so I felt like I gained that confidence and that chutzpah, right? To go forth and demonstrate that I knew what I was talking about. And I would talk to people in my community, and we would just talk about different strategies for getting their business off the ground or making decisions about how they wanted to move forward. And I realized I actually have actual services that I can offer to people. And we have a local nonprofit organization that helps they provide a 16-week training and for entrepreneurs to help them get their products off the ground and get their business ideas into, actual form. And I've been mentoring entrepreneurs through that, and really love working with them, to help them. My most recent, she had this idea for a retail reuse recycle store, and literally we started meeting a month before the pandemic. Well, 3 months before the pandemic hit, and she thought, there's that moment of like, can I even go forward? And understanding what her goals were, what her purpose were, what her abilities were, we were able to adjust so that she could get launched online and then, launch in retail. So now she has a store, which is pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love, not everybody wants to be with Rodan & Fields. And this way I get to help, people. I get to work with people who don't want to be, that way with Rodan & Fields.
Yeah. So what you find the big hurdle is for female entrepreneur who comes to you because they have a desire? What is the big hurdle for them? And
there are a couple of different things. The person who I work most effectively with is somebody who has a pretty clear idea that that they know what they want, that they have the product and a service kind of already, pretty well formulated, and some support or some systems at least considered to put in place. And the biggest hurdle that they have is cutting through that like well, I could do this, 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 where do I start? I'm not going to do it all. I'm not going to do any of it. I don't even know where to start. And so I really help them identify the 3 things to work on, right? And come up with a checklist and move forward with that. And so that way, everybody I work with, we come up to a different schedule of meeting times. And that way it adapts to what they need, and I'm able to give them something that comes into bite-sized chunks that helps them to move forward.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love it, all the stories you share. So now we started about when you started, like with the the loss of jobs, and you had a life before that you enjoyed, but now are you in a position right now to not to say or to state that you've been accomplishing things that is beyond your expectation compared to the life you had before entrepreneurship? Like,
I would never, I always
I would never go back.
I mean, I have to say, because of who my parents are, because of my upbringing, my sort of groundedness in reality, I always found contentment and satisfaction in the work that I was doing, and I enjoyed that work. I would never have anticipated, going back 8 years even, that I would be sitting here chatting with you about this whole new coaching services, being on a podcast. Like, that was never anything I would have ever imagined. I didn't go to college thinking one day I'm going to be a skincare consultant and have a coaching business. No.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my God, I have shivers. It's so transformational, right? So
it is.
I don't want to take too much of your time, but what is the big emotional end results for you, type of payoff as a woman to have built this?
Yeah. I haven't had anybody ask me that question in that way before. So I need to think about that for just 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it's kind of like the feeling and satisfaction of going way back to when I was in high school. I was an athlete, and when our team would have, just that unfettered joy of doing something with my team, and we, just blew whatever it was, won whatever it was that we won. It's just sort of that unfettered joy and excitement over like, oh my gosh, I've done this, and again, like, there's bruises, you get, you're tired. You're kind of every once in a while like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But then you go forward, and it's just that, again, there's that excitement. Or like when you have your kid, right? When you give birth and you're like, oh my gosh, look at this gift I have. It's so amazing. And we made this.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I love this. And so going back to one of the first sentence you said at the beginning, you said, for me, it's very important for women to be able to be independent in whatever they build, right? So tell me more before we say goodbye. Like, financially, it's a big, like, I did a presentation with bankers this week at the Scotiabank Women Initiative, and they were talking so much about, it's harder for women to build financial independence and freedom in business than men. How do you, what's your words on this? How did financially your empire, the one you're building right now, is proof that you can do it?
Yes, I think it's so important for women to be financially empowered and independent and capable. And I know I was, again, talking with somebody the other day, and she said, 60% of women hold wealth, at least in the United States, and we're afraid to talk about our finances. Or, the other statistic I heard is that 1 in 4 Americans don't have retirement savings, and I need to go back and double check that. Nobody go quote me as like actual knowledge, but that just stunned me to know that that there were people that there were people. So women, we live longer. We often lose out on some of the career investments that men gain. I think from the very beginning, because at least traditionally, we haven't known how to negotiate. And so from the beginning, we get a lower salary to start with. We take time off when we have children. Those are just natural things, right? And they count against you in the financial empowerment aspect of life. And so, you never want to be stuck. And I don't mean like, my husband and I have a great relationship and we love each other. Like, I don't foresee anything changing, but life happens. People get divorced, spouses die. I had that really brought home to me about 5 years ago, when several people that I knew, they passed away from ALS, from cancer, and their families were left behind. And I thought, oh my gosh, actually it was even before that. And at that point I was like, okay, so I have to teach my kids how to make sure they know how to do laundry, to eat, to cook, how to take care of things, because I need to make it so I don't have to be here. Right.
Wow.
And so going back to the question, like, you can see my brain thinks in like 1,000 different things.
I love it. That's why we're here.
Yeah. I just think, we as individuals need to be empowered to be able to make decisions that make us happy, that protect us, and that provide us with a cushion so that should an emergency happen, we're not stuck. We're not immediately, just bereft of options and the very basics of shelter and food.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much. I put below that video how people can reach you on LinkedIn, Robin Kaczka.
Thank you.
And I really hope that if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comments, if you have more questions or what did it bring to you, because it's so personal what you share, but it's so inspiring because you went through so many situations that we all go through, like saying for the first time what we really think or what
Yes.
we really stand for. The first time, it's like, it's very a big, loud thing in our brain, right? It's like, ooh.
Yes.
And I really, really enjoyed any aspect of that conversation, but how you describe how you go through stuff and how you share your story. So I wish you all the best, Robin.
Yes,
is there
thank
any
you.
question that I didn't ask that I should have asked you?
I think you were pretty thorough.
Okay.
I've loved getting to know, we just met and it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. And I'm sure I'll come up with a question after we end, because that's how my brain also works, where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So if you have a design, if you want to learn more about the other activity that Robin has with Rodan and Phil, you can reach out to Robin on LinkedIn, or if you're not sure, reach out to me and I'll send you to Robin, no matter what. But thank you for the inspiration and for sharing what it is to be a woman and building your business from scratch, and coming from a place where you would have never dreamed or imagined that you would be where you are right now. Right.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, tell me, last one word. What is the one word you want to say to our audience today, based on all our conversation?
Go for it. It's one phrase. Go for it.
It works. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to our friends on Instagram. Bye to the podcast and bye to YouTube.
And I'll just sit here.